How you doing? Hope you're doing great. Today is Wednesday. It is September 13th, 2017, and this is live stream number 56. Hope you're doing good. Today's topic is manage your data in Fusion 360. It's a little bit of housekeeping. So I have done a couple of live streams before, kind of around this topic before, but I think that, once in a while, I think it's good we kind of like dig into some of this kind of the data talk and how to manage it inside of Fusion 360. We all need once in a while to kind of like, all right, go in there and clean things up. Already see we got people showing up in here. We got Tommy, we got Robert, and we got Isaac from Mexico. Really appreciate you guys taking the time. So yes, let's jump in and talk a little bit about data management with Fusion. Let's talk a little bit about kind of like some of the options you have with your Fusion data. Now, I want to make clear from the beginning that we're not really going to talk about Fusion Team. So I talked about Fusion Team before on the live stream. So Fusion Team is a paid service. It is more for companies. So when you install Fusion 360, you create a Autodesk ID, and that Autodesk ID is kind of like your key to all the data you create inside of Fusion 360. So whenever you're creating a file, you're saving it. It is stored under your user account. It's your data. A lot of this data is located on servers like on Amazon and all the type of servers like that, but it's your data. It's not Autodesk's. If you have Fusion Team, it's more towards like companies, because in a company you maybe don't want, let's say you have 4 different Fusion 360 users, you don't want the company data located on these 4 different user names. You want kind of like a company, a hub, where all the data is, and then, the users kind of like hooked into that. That's Fusion Team. It's not really what we're going to talk about today. We can definitely talk more about that later on. But if you are a company and you want to know more about Fusion Team, just Google Fusion Team, Fusion 360 or something, and you should definitely get that link. Okay, let's jump in to talk a little bit about it inside of Fusion here. So if I open up Fusion 360, and you go over to the data panel over here, this is where, clicking that little 9 square, that is where all your data is located. Now, talking a little bit about like housekeeping and how to organize things like that, things in here. Let me just give you kind of like a couple of quick pointers that might help you a little bit. First of all, notice that you can pin and unpin projects over here. So projects is kind of like folder structures, though you can have folders within projects. But it's really nice that you can pin certain ones and unpin other ones. So I do this sometimes. If there's certain ones that I'm working on, I will pin them, and then when I'm done working on them, then I maybe just unpin them, and then they kind of like go away from the top. So definitely the pin and unpin is kind of nice. So if I scroll down to a project that is not pinned, you can see that the pin shows up there. I click on it, and now it is part of my pinned case here. So that's definitely something that I think you should know about. Another thing I like to use a lot is this filter down at the bottom. If you start typing, things will kind of like filter out. So if I, for example, start, typing in some kind of letters, you will see that things kind of like gets smaller and smaller as I'm kind of like filtering down through things. So typing things down here is an easy way to kind of find things. There is also a search up here, but that will search everything within the projects. This filter down here just finds the projects that you maybe were looking for. And then one that I know a lot of my colleagues are using that I should probably use more is this on top. There's something called My Recent Data. Because many times you have already been inside of this project recently, and if you click on My Recent Data, it will give you kind of like that the latest data that you've kind of been into. So this is kind of this is kind of the tips and tricks I would say about this data panel that you should definitely know about. Now, one of the things that I think that probably most of us is going to be guilty of is that when we start working inside Fusion 360, at some point we're ending up with a lot of folders, a lot of different folders in here, and it can get a little crazy at some point. Now, there's different ways, of course, to deal with this, and I'm not gonna say that I'm an organizational expert. I will give you one tip though that I have used a lot in the past when it comes to data, and especially if you, for example, are coming from another software and you're migrating over to Fusion 360. Now you have all this data from other computer programs sitting around, maybe other CAM systems or CAD systems. And what do you do with all this data? And I think that there's something in my brain that I want to convert it all over and get it inside of my new system, so like into Fusion. And I really don't recommend going through all that. First of all, it's a lot of work. You have better things to do than sit there and try to translate everything over. What I have always preferred to do is to create a folder on my hard drive and in my backup drive and just call it old and put all that stuff in there, because most of that stuff you never needed anyways. You might need it at some point, but if you know that it's in a folder that's called old, then at least you know that that's where all that stuff is, and you don't have to sit there and try to dig through it and try to organize it and things like that. And I actually do that kind of like I do that with a lot of my data. Also, once a year or something like that, when I'm starting a new year, many times that's a process where I'm just taking last year's data, kind of like putting it inside of one folder called 2016, and then I know I can find it in there if I need it, but many times you don't. So that's just a little tip. Like if your data is getting like multiplied between too many folders and too crazy, maybe just organizing in like one place, or don't worry about it. Start a new folder and that's the one you're working on. So I want to show you what I used to do when it came to customers' work, because that can be, you start if you start up or you are a company and you start getting customers and things like that. What I used to do was I create a folder called customers, and I double click on that, and then in there I would create a list, a new folder structure for each of my customers. So for example, this is just fake companies. I think Globex is actually a Simpson company. So maybe I had a customer called Holly, and I would create folders for those customers. Within those customers, I would then create their part number, not my part number. Like, most companies have their own specific part numbers, but I would not do that in the customer folder. I would do the customer's part number, because whenever a customer calls you up and want to know what is the situation with a specific part, they will refer to their number. Now, under their number, then you could go in and you could create, whatever part number you want to call it or whatever you want to do in there. But that's kind of like how I would do it. And like I said, when it comes to the end of the year, for that customer, I might just go back to that customer and just call this customer 2016 folder and then create one for 2017. So I kind of like just archiving the old stuff and not trying to solve the mysteries of folder structures when I worked with that in the back. So I hope that kind of like, there was a couple of questions that came in about how I manage my data. I hope that kind of helps. Now, another thing that I've been asked about is how does it work inside of Fusion when it comes to sharing data and copy data and stuff. So let's just attack that a little bit. So if we go into our live stream folder in here, you will see that there's all different kind of stuff we've been using doing these live streams. And if you right click on any part files, you get this menu up here. And I know that everybody's in a hurry. Nobody have time to do too many things. But if you get a little bit familiar with some of the different options in here, that will definitely can definitely help you. So one that you should definitely know about is that in here you can, well, I have it on rename. That's all great. You can rename the part. But this is also where I will share a link to my file. So if one of you guys said, for example, I have this heart that we modeled up a while back. If I right click on that and you wanted that model, I will come in here and I will right click and say share public link, and this dialog box shows up here. And if I click on this little checkbox to share this latest version, then Fusion will let me copy this link to my clipboard, and I will paste that into the email I'm sending you, where I'll be like, click on this, and when you click on that, you will be able to download a copy of this file. Now, you're not interacting with the specific file, you just get your own copy of it, and you can actually put a password on it down here too. So that's how I share files with, sometimes people call me up and says, hey, we want, the device and the table you have, and that's how I will go about that. So right click and go ahead and then click the share public link in here, and then that will happen. Now another thing that can happen in here that is important is if we're looking at this heart here, you will see that there has a V8, but has nothing to do with the engine of how powerful this heart is beating, but it's versions, right? So every time you save something inside of Fusion, it creates a version. And so there have been 8 saves on this model here. Now if we click on that V8, then it would actually open up a little dialog box here, and you will see there's some data about it, when it was created and by whom, and then you will see that we can actually see these different versions of this heart. And if we scroll all the way back, we can see that here was where item was created. So this was when I created this heart the first time, and you can actually maybe see it's maybe a little small. It's gray. So in version 1, I probably just modeled up the heart and I hit save, but then in the next one I actually gave it some color, the red color. Now at any point you can click over here and you can promote this. Now when you promote inside of Fusion, you're not moving this data up to the top, you're copying it. So when I click promote here, you will actually see that Fusion is going to think about it and is now have promoted this part. Now we have 9 versions instead of 8, and that have been promoted up there. So this is now the latest version. And you can go in here and you can actually, I'm just going to promote the latest version saved up on top of that. So now I have 10 versions, just so I make sure that I have the latest version up here. Now, in the beginning, I was a little bit like with these, how many versions do I really want in here? But to be honest, I mean, I don't think that anybody is going to yell at you for saving too often. So I don't really care how many versions I end up with in here. So just be aware of that by clicking on that version number, you can promote things. And this is there's a ton of good reasons for knowing of this promote function. You can go back to designs that you had done previously. You wanted to go back and check those out, and different ways of that. So that is important to know about. The other thing is, if you right click on a project, is that you can either move or copy. Now there is some restrictions to the move and copy files. And let me go in here. Here I have the this electrical Canura box here that some of you guys maybe have seen this video. We modeled this one up from scratch. So everything was modeled up within one part file in here. And I can literally move this file wherever I want. But if I go over here to the plastic injection mold video I did, some of you guys may have seen that one, in here you will see that there is some linked components in here. So this is components that actually lives outside this design that was brought into this design. So they are linked out to other files. And you cannot move this one to other projects. Now, if you're coming from Inventor or you're coming from other CAD software, you might scratch your head a little bit about this in the beginning, being like, wait a minute, I can do that in Inventor. And that is true, that you can kind of like use it kind of like a pack and go, or you can like move components around. But then you maybe have also tried the hassle that can happen with that, where links gets broken and suddenly when you open up files, you cannot find them. And that is what Fusion is preventing from happening. That you suddenly link files through multiple data sets, and suddenly when you open something up, things are broken and it's useless, and that's a mess. So let me just show you a couple of things around that. So if we go back out of the live stream here, and let's actually go and find the plastic conduit project here, double click on that. So here is that box, that is this file here. So if I right click on this one and say I, for example, want to copy it, this dialog box comes up here, and you will see I have all these projects that I could now copy it to, because there's no links inside of this part. So I could go to pretty much any folder in here, like our live stream folder, and I could copy that design over there without any problems. Now, if we go into the mold here, and we go in and we try to do the same thing with that one, right click, and we go and say copy, you will see, because it has links components, I can't scroll down to all the different projects. I'm staying within the same project because these parts are linked. So no projects over here. Let's go back to where we just were, the new box here. Right, I'm missing this section over here, so I can't even move out of that. Now, there is, of course, a way that you can do this. I'm going to, of course, want to show you that. And to show you that, I'm actually going to go another place that inside of all our projects here, if you go up and click up on your name up here, you will actually be taken to Fusion on the cloud. So this web page will open up, and this is an identical view of what you see inside of Fusion. So there's no magic to it. This is just inside of Fusion, and if we go to the web, this is kind of like the same kind of area. You can actually see that it noticed that I just updated that heart 4 minutes ago. And the same restrictions are working in here. You can do the same things in here when it comes to like copy and doing different things, creating projects and stuff like that. If I go in here and I say that I want to copy the mold, so I click on it, we can go and click on this little arrow here. We can copy that. Kind of like the same thing. We get all these different areas we want to go into, different folders and stuff, and we can copy it. But if I go into our mold, so that mold is right here. Now it will actually give me the same folders, but when I try to copy it into one of these, it would actually come up with a warning up here, say that it's failed to do that. Now, if you do want to move this over somewhere else, what you have to do is you have to kind of like pack the whole thing down, including all the link components, and then you can, if you pack that down, then you can move it to another folder. The way to do that is to take, and I'll do that out here. So come out to the web, what you did by clicking on top of your name up here, and then you can actually click here on the arrow, and you can download it to your local computer as a Fusion archive, and then inside of Fusion, just move to whatever folder you wanted to upload it to, and then just click the upload button up here, and then you can select that downloaded file. And that's how you can move it around. But then you're also moving all those link components with it and kind of like securing that things don't blow up. A couple of other things. So I was talking about in the beginning how Fusion Team is a way that you can, as a big company, you can share kind of like one hub, and then all the workers are working around that. And I showed you how you can share links with people, with other people, so they can download the model. You can also invite people into a specific hub. So, for example, this customer here, I could go ahead here and type somebody's email address and send them an invite, and they are now part of that. So be aware that you can do that also. And that brings me back to the web again. I know I'm jumping a little bit around here, but there's another thing I want to show you. Here on the web portion, I use these all the time. There is some buttons up here that is really nice. So right here, you can see that right now I have all the ones that was pinned. Remember, all the one that was pinned inside of Fusion. They are now displayed here. That's these files here. I can show all the files I have in my hub, the ones that I created, the ones that other created but invited me to, right? So you can also get invites from other people to go to those. And this is just a nice way to kind of like see which ones other people shared with you. So you can go in here and you can look at these. And if you are going to do any kind of cleanup, this is probably the easiest place to go out here and just kind of like, look at these out here. Now, as you're seeing, you can absolutely delete things out of here. So these different projects that you have in here, they can absolutely be, tossed. Now, if you toss a project, then they will come archived, and these archived are sitting over here where you can actually now either delete them forever or you can restore them back again, what can be kind of nice. So about 20 minutes in here, I hope that this was kind of like helpful. Just remember that, first of all, keep things straight with your folders. And if it gets too crazy, like I said, I will recommend you kind of like packing things up and relabeling things so it's easier to find. You can definitely do that with like the thumb tag or something like that. Another little thing I want to show you that I think is important is that if you go out here on the cloud portion, the Fusion on the cloud, and you create a project, you actually can upload your own images here, or there's some stock images, but you can upload your own images. That's what you will see. These images that you see up here are images that I have used to upload. This is the standard image for if you do it within Fusion. So if you go into Fusion and you say new project here, then it gets that triangular icon, whatever that is supposed to be. But if you go out on the cloud portion and you create a new project out here, you actually get an option to upload your own images in here, and that actually makes it a lot easier to kind of find them when you're looking, because that's also transferred over to here, right? So over here you can see some of them, not all my files, but some of them have images that just makes it a lot easier to find. So I did a video on how to make a dovetail draw, and I took an image of a dovetail, so that kind of like resembles that. I hope that was helpful. A little bit of house cleaning. That's probably always a good thing. And I think I will throw these live streams up, I don't know, every 25th or something like that, just to make sure that, we kind of like make sure that we come back on this topic and things don't kind of like blow up. If you are a company and you are looking for a little bit more structured, you need like moderators and you need to set permissions, then Fusion Team is definitely a must. That's also where you can create like, you can have your, if you're doing CAM, you can have your tool library up there and everybody can look at that and everybody can pull tools from that. So that's another neat things about that. I hope that this was helpful. Tomorrow, same time, 2 o'clock Eastern, we're going to talk about shortcuts inside of Fusion 360. So if you are still one of those that hunts around in the menus and you just would kind of like to get a refresher on what kind of shortcuts that is available inside of Fusion, that's what we're going to attack tomorrow. As always, I really appreciate you taking the time to out of your busy day to watch these videos. Either if you're in the live stream, 51 people in there, really appreciate it. Or if you are watching the recordings. But it's all right? It's probably kind of cool that YouTube saves them right up there. So I'm going to do what I normally do. I am going to end the broadcast here, and then I'm going to jump into the live stream chat and kind of like say hi to everybody and see if there's anybody questions, anybody have any future topics. Definitely check that out. So thank you so much. I hope you have an awesome day. Thank you.